The following program is sponsored by The Greek, Ely's Radio Shack dealer at 570 Altman in downtown Ely, and brought to you as a public service by Georgetown Media in Ely, Nevada. Ely City Council meeting, January 14th, 2021.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have someone here for the invocation, either on Zoom? No? Okay. So we'll move on to the roll call then.
Mayor Robertson.
Present.
Councilman Flagus is absent. Councilman Carson.
Present.
Councilman Spear.
Here.
Councilman Allworth.
Here.
Councilwoman Beecher. Here. City Attorney Manueli.
Here.
City Treasurer Trask. Here. City Public Works Supervisor Craycraft.
Here.
City Engineer Omberg. Fire Chief Stork.
Here.
Police Chief Penroy.
Here.
That's all, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. With that, we'll move on to public comments. You'll please state your name for the record within 3 minutes. Taking public comment either on the Zoom meeting or in the room. Public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, the area on which the new tire shop is located is yet to complete the curb and gutter on the northwest side, and heavy trucks will start to demolish 9th Street very quickly. They usually carry considerable loads, and we're not addressing that. You have codes that, you have codes. Do they not apply to everyone? Where's your building inspector and engineer? Get rid of both of them, and the city would have more than enough to put in the curb, gutter, and sidewalk, as well as pay me for what you owe me. That's a new business, Mr. Mayor. What kind of message are we sending out to everybody? Welcome to Hillbilly Haven? Dirt streets? No curb and gutter? Mr. Mayor, on your agenda item 7.1, you're to consider the possible approval of a Will Serve application for the Crowell Association for a new sewer connection and a possible waiver of fees. The application did not include the requirement that the applicant, and I quote, applicant must provide documented proof that they are the owners of the property described below, or provide a notarized statement from the legal owner that the applicant is authorized to apply for a will serve in the owner's behalf. That was not presented at the utility board, and I didn't see it in your packet here. I support the project if the rules are followed and the proper out-of-city connection fee is paid. No waivers. You guys are throwing out thousands of dollars and you're not paying me a dime. I pay every month. I want to remind you that. I'm not being reimbursed for carrying that clogged sewer at 681 Parker, and I pay monthly for years. Recently, they just had to remount that line again. I'm tired, Mr. Mayor. I want my money. Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman Beecher and Councilman Allworth have yet to address the rumor that tens of thousands of dollars have been embezzled from the railroad. Yes or no? It's a simple question, simple answer. This concerns the rest of you people. We need to know. That's what you got elected for. Well, I want accountability. Mr. Mayor, on the December 10th, 2020 Utility Board meeting, Councilman Allworth reported to the Utility Board that the county golf course has used approximately 111 million gallons of water or more. Have they been billed for that? Did that include penalties and interest? You can't treat some any better than others. I want to know, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, the fire hydrant on the corner of Avenue K in Great Basin was not reinstalled back far enough to allow the proper width of Avenue K when the Great Basin is repaved and the curb and gutter is installed. Again, we have rules and regulations, codes, they got to be complied with. Now you've got new construction, and there's others on that street, but I'll bring those up later. Mr. Mayor, the billing for my property located at 490 I Street has not been corrected to date. I paid the landfill billing for all of the time that I had the property, including the penalties. You've treated others differently and removed their penalties and interest. I've been diligent in telling you of the discrepancies, yet you continue to misbill me.
Thank you,
The most
George.
recent
That's
bill is
3
for
minutes.
$1,367.77, yet I pay every month.
Thank you, George. That's 3
You need to
minutes.
hire somebody that knows accounting, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
I'm tired of the discrimination.
Any other public comment? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to item 3, mayor discussion for possible action, approval of agenda, including removal of agenda items. If there are no proposed changes to the agenda, I will entertain a motion. We have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Carried and so ordered. We'll move on with item 4, city department reports. We'll start with the fire chief.
So only one quick change to the report that you guys have. We had staffing up to full staff. The one new guy who we hired is active in the guards. He got deployed this morning to Washington DC until the 30th. So I'm going to lose him for the rest of the month. And I did have one employee turn in the resignation. We are going to advertise outside again and try to see if we can get an actual fully qualified candidate. And then if not, we have some candidates that are still in from the previous interviews that we can talk to or give them a call if need be. So if you got any other questions, that's the only other update I have.
Anything for the fire chief? Okay, thank you. Police chief.
Thank you, Mayor, Councilman. You should have some reports, the last quarter statistics, then a yearly statistics, and then breakdown of the last few years. Ed, go ahead.
I just wonder what you attribute the number of incidents. Oh, you're right. I'm as bad as everybody, I know. I'd like to see, no, I can't take it off, I guess. I think I was better with it on. But anyway, the number of incidents since 2017 has went from 13,000 to last year 13 to 10,000. And the cost of it has gone down as well. And I'm assuming that the $75 a day went through 2019, but the 2020 cost per inmate was $125. So we actually had an increase in the cost per inmate, but a $200,000 decrease from the year before. How's that happen?
Well, what are you looking at the statistics for the 17 to 2000? Okay, so as you look at the days served in jail, like in 2017, you had a little over 6,000 days served in jail, and in 2020, you had only a little over 1,900 days served in jail. So basically, that was one of my big questions too when we ran the statistics. And so we did a little bit more research on that. And I can tell you it has to do with phone recognizance releases. So the judge that we currently have sitting right now has increased his OR releases since 2018 to 2020 by 43%. So after we arrest somebody, they can either post bail, or once they have their first appearance with the judge can then OR. Those ORs have gone up extensively. So that's why the cost, you see the cost fall, even though the cost of housing inmates has gone up.
Yeah.
The time that they're serving in our jail has gone down.
And also the number of incidents has gone down by 3,300, and that's a lot. That's a
So
25% increase. I think it's commendable, but I just don't know what you attribute that
from
to.
2017 to 2020, well, for 2020, a lot of it has to do with COVID. You know, there was probably a good 3-month period that law enforcement literally took a step back. Because we, just like the rest of the nation, was, you know, we didn't have the education of what COVID, how it spread, what we were supposed to be doing with it, how infectious it was, you know, all the mixed reports were coming into us. So for us to even arrest somebody to put them in jail, we were very cautious about that. we might even write them a citation or just give them a warning and let them go, because having COVID in your jail was like the biggest fear, that it was going to run rapid and kill everybody. So for those, those 3 months, law enforcement stepped back. I mean, nobody was traveling, everybody staying home. That fear factor was out there. So our numbers did decrease. What are they going to look like for 2021? I think they're going to pop right back up.
Same.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
I appreciate your question, Ed. Sheriff, I look at that as a simple math number. Your cost to have a jail, to run your jail, not to patrol, just your jail, is X amount of dollars.
Right.
Your divisor went from just under 6,000 to just under 2,000. So it went from $75 a day, just by simple math, up to $125 a day. That's why I interpret that. It's costing you so much to run your jail. If you don't have no days in jail, this is divisor. Sure, you didn't throw a lot of people in jail, but if your cost to your jail is X amount of money and you only arrest 2 people, you're going to have $1,000 and some dollars per inmate. That's why I'm saying it'd be hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands. So some of your explanation, I'll buy it, but I think a lot of it is your divisor. You're just not, again, people aren't going in jail, but to a simple math. You took your total cost, your jail cost, electricity, wages, or your jailers, whatever you have in there, and divide it by 1,961. To me, that's why your rate went up so much. Thank you.
Yeah, and the cost of inmate per jail, or cost of inmate per day, we don't do that. That's a national standard. So we go off the national standard to predict that cost. It could be a little bit higher, it could be a little bit lower, really depending on area, but that's the national standard that's set. So they do a lot of averaging to get that. They look at the large jails, they look at the small jails, and they average that cost in. And that's for everything, just like you say, water, sewer, housing, doctors, all the factors get thrown in there. So.
Okay, so that's the third different answer. The first one, you explained why it was at $125. I throw out my simple math idea, and you say no, it's a national standard. We go off the national standard. So that's not the actual cost, $125 per inmate in White Pine County Jail, correct or incorrect?
Well, what I do is I look at how many days that they were served. So we take the way our records management system works. It divides the county and the city. So if you're arrested in the city, it logs that as a city arrest. If you're arrested in the county, it logs that as a county arrest. So we look at all those arrests and we look at how many of those inmates and how many days they served. So the total amount of inmate time served for city arrest was the 1,961 days. So that's how many days that is. So now all I do is then I look at the national cost, the national standard of cost per inmate, and I just say, well, that's $125 a day to house that inmate, and that's what your total comes up to. I hope I'm not confusing you by giving you these.
I'm confused, but again, we need to make a point of clarification. I talked to the sheriff before the meeting, and it says statistics for the city of Ely. That's arrests within the city of Ely. They may be foreigners, they may be out-of-towners. They're not all city residents. So I think this whole report, in my opinion, is misleading when you look at this. So then I go to the next question. You're going to have this new judicial center built. If it comes down to a possibility of bringing inmates from, say, Clark County up here to house them, what is the rate you're going to charge, say, Clark County to house an inmate in your new facility?
We're not doing that. We're not housing inmates for anybody else, Jim.
Okay. Yeah, I think this report needs a little bit of fine tuning.
Yeah, I know that you shared that concern with me, and it's basically the statistics for the city of Ely. I could put in there that it's the arrests for the city of Ely.
I think
that's fine too.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then I know Councilman Allworth, a couple of city council meetings ago, you asked me to look into the number of business license violations that we had. So I ran those statistics, and for 2020, there was 4 reported that our officers went and investigated. So,
Okay, thank you, Sheriff.
yep.
Any other questions for the sheriff? Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Municipal court judge, I don't think he's here, okay. City attorney?
Nothing to report.
Okay, you have his reports for liens and liens released. City clerk?
Mayor?
Oh. Is there someone online? Is that you, Judge Coster?
I'm sorry to interrupt. Late. I'm not on the agenda for a report tonight. I will be at the next meeting, and I will add to that agenda both the state annual report, now that it's in final form. I believe you got a copy directly, as well as a brief discussion on the state direction relative to OR releases and the continuation of bonds for people that are already in jail.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
City clerk?
I just wanted to introduce Heather Cobb. She's our new administrative assistant. Has been a tremendous help already. Also want to note that building official Christensen is on in the Zoom meeting, and city engineer Albert Watkins.
Okay, thank you. City treasurer?
Just a quick update on the HR side of it. We have had reported one EMS resign, and we will be filling that. I did have also in the landfill another employee resign. We filled that with in-house. So I'm now looking for a service worker in the water sewer department. And on the financial side, I will try and have the financial statement out to you guys tomorrow, if not on Tuesday, since Monday's a holiday.
Now, one question, the person that left the landfill, did he give any indication where he was going to?
He didn't per se to me, but I heard it was to the mine.
Okay, thank you.
What's that?
The mic.
Oh, did you not hear me?
I can hear you, but I know they're back behind you.
Oh, no.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
City public works supervisor?
Was there any question?
Any questions for Mike Richard? Okay, thank you. City water operator, you have his report. City engineer?
You got reports, you got any questions?
Any questions for engineer Albert? City building official, I believe you're on the Zoom call.
I am. I have nothing more to report. Is there any questions?
Don't see any. Thank you, Brad.
Where's my comment?
Thank you.
We'll move on to item 5, NNR Life Found. I'll give this over to Mayor Pro Tem Beecher.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Item number 5, Nevada Northern Railway Foundation report.
I got to, just to remind everyone on the speaking text that it's difficult to hear you if you keep speaking with the mask on. So when you speak, please.
Hello, Michelle. I am on Zoom.
Hi, Mark. Did you have anything to add to your report?
No, not really. We are doing trains this weekend. We have Locomotive 93's birthday train on Saturday at 1 p.m. The fireworks train at 4:30 p.m. on Saturday, and then those trains both sold out, and we're doing, we've added a train for Sunday morning at 9:30 a.m., and we are following the state's protocols. We have lowered capacity to 25%, and of course, we're doing masks and everything else. That's all I have to add.
Sounds great. Does anybody have any questions for Mark? Okay, thank you, Mark. I'll turn it
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item 6, reports for the City Council. We'll start with you, Councilman Carson.
Nothing to report.
Okay, Councilman Spear.
Let me get out of the report, is that Ernie talked to me this afternoon and asked me.
If you could, thank you.
Yeah, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm the worst one of the bunch, aren't I? Ernie wanted me to pass on to you that about 2:30, 3 o'clock this afternoon, his last remaining brother passed away. So he couldn't make it because of the doctor's deal, but I did tell him I'd let the council make me know that his older brother, John, passed this afternoon.
Sure, we appreciate that.
That's all I have.
Councilman Albert.
Nothing to report, Mr. Mayor.
Councilwoman Beecher.
Nothing so much except for a request I heard from someone who had been trying to get on to the meetings. Is there any way we can post a notice on the old website that will direct direct people to the new?
It's just something on my to-do list. It's
Okay.
to be done.
Perfect.
Not to post a notice, but to have our IT people just automatically redirect traffic.
Wonderful.
So I apologize that hasn't been taken care of
No
yet.
problem. Thank you, Jennifer.
Okay, is that all? For my report, I would like to make everybody aware that we do have Fire and Ice this weekend. We've got some great things planned. We're excited about that. Our thoughts and prayers go out to those from our community who are going to be going to Washington, D.C. on deployment. I think it speaks a lot that that affects even people down here in little old Ely. So I'd also like to report that we had some generous businesses and residents in the city who came forward with some money for us to buy some flags.
Mayor, could you please take down your mask?
I will not take on the mask. But, so the First National Bank and Economy Drug, as well as Ely Family Dental and Mary Harrison, the widow of one of our former mayors, gave some money so that we could purchase some new flags, and I think that's a great thing. So that's all I have to report. Item 7, items for discussion, possible action of the Ely City Council as recommended by the Municipal Utilities Board. Item 1, board members, City Engineer Almberg, discussion for possible action, approve will serve application for White Pine Corral Association for a new sewer connection at the Ely City Corrals. Applicant is requesting a fee waiver.
Hello everyone. The Corral Association plans on building a small little building. They're in here actually to explain if you got any more questions specifically about what they're doing down there. When they come and put this together for me, I actually said, hey, I think we need to also do a water service, but I was informed that they already have a water service down there for this, and so this is strictly for a sewer service. We have the capacity, have no problems serving that, and so I recommend approval of that. One of the requests that was in here is a request to waive the fees. But in the documents this morning, I noticed that the fees that are on there are for fees within the city of Ely. That is actually located within the county, and so those fees are actually county fees, which are higher than that, which is, I think, $4,700. You know what that is, county fee?
Microphone, please.
But
Just pull up the microphone.
it is above, it's not the fees that are in this thing right there. So I just want to express to you that what's shown on that application is city fees.
4,700, you say?
Yes, that's what I believe it is.
So,
Plus or minus.
so it's not up to us to waive fees then? The
No, it
county
is.
has to-
It is. No. We have a different fee structure.
Oh,
If we are serving city residents, it's one fee. If we're serving county residents, it's another fee. And this happens to be within the county.
Why does the city own property that's not annexed to the city?
I can't answer that because the city line is actually Crawford Street is where the city line is. And so from
Crawford Street.
yes,
Okay.
which is the last street as you leave by Fred Alvar's house right there.
Okay.
That becomes the county. And
So
so
like
yes,
the
this
land
is,
that the sewer plant sits on and the land that the landfill sits on, none of that has been annexed into the city?
there's portions of that,
Because there's the Georgetown Ranch.
yes, the Georgetown Ranch, that's a good question. So no, I may be incorrect in what I'm just saying right there. Because I didn't notice the fees until this morning
Sure.
about doing that. But you may be correct because the Georgetown Ranch was actually annexed into there, so.
Okay.
But in this morning, they did waive the fees, correct?
Yes, they did. This went in front of the utility board this morning. They recommended approval. You know, I've never been a big fan of waiving tap fees for sure, but once I figured out what they were actually doing with this building too, I mean, it's something that the community does need. I believe it'll be a big operating room for horses, if I believe is that correct?
Kent Linsky, President of the Corral Association, and it'll be for, it'll be for operating on large animals, not only horses, but whoever brings something in, and it'll be for the Eureka Baker, whoever can get your, like, I've taken 3 horses to Salt Lake and I've come back with 1. So that is why I feel that we need this. And any veterinary within the area can use this building.
So if there are no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I have a question. So the use, is it for a restroom? The sewer you need for the restroom, or is it for rinsing down the floor into?
For both, and I'd like a double tub, a restroom, and then a drain in the floor, so that we can sanitize the area.
Okay, thank you.
We have a motion from Councilman Beecher. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried as ordered. Thank you, Ken. Item 2, Councilman Carson, discussion for possible action, determination of comments to be submitted on Robinson Mine expansion draft environmental impact statement. How did they find out this morning?
So the utility board agreed that we should probably, the mayor sent off a letter in June, I guess, of support and just a few comments, I guess. One did ask about community housing, reclamation plan, and establishment of the escrow agreement for the power for the wells in the city of Ely, which I think all 3 of those still need to be addressed and move forward. And Jennifer Lee did bring up a idea today. Do you have that with you?
Yes.
If you could read that, please. I think this should be included in the letter as well.
Are you referring to Alan's email or my note? on the
Your
statement?
suggestion that you found in the EIS.
So, I'll remember that. Okay, section 5.3, coordination agencies. The BLM invited several federal, state, and local government agencies having jurisdiction or special expertise to become cooperating agencies. EPA Region 9, NDOW set a specific entity within NDOW by Pine County Board of Commissioners. The city of Ely isn't mentioned. If there's an entity that should be mentioned in that coordinating agencies, it should have been us.
So I think we should add that in the letter as well. And then also, I don't know if our city engineer got a hold of our hydrologist today. Our hydrologist had maybe some questions too that we needed clarification on about the dewatering efforts.
He did. The hydrologist come in, and Jennifer had read an email that she had received from our hydrologist on this, and he just come and mentioned a couple of sections within this report where, do you want me to read this letter? Or
Is it long?
It's not very long.
Oh, it's that long.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Says, good morning, Jennifer. As I mentioned last week, I left for a trip to Arizona. On the evening, your email below was received and just returned late last night. However, I did give the RMC Plan of Operations Amendment, DEIS, a cursory review during my time out, focusing on proposed actions, potential impacts on the water resources. The proposed actions would include extending the mine life an additional 4 years to 2028. I assume that means December 31st, 2028. Resuming and expanding mining in Liberty Pit, and resuming Liberty Pit dewatering. For the Liberty Pit dewatering operations, it is stated that RMC would reactivate existing pumping and piping facilities, including pumps and pipelines to convey Liberty water to the mill for use in process circuit. Reference page 3-221. Proposed action would require additional dewatering of 137 to 202 acre-feet per year. Reference page 2-10. The potential impacts of water resources, including Murray Springs, are identified in the DEIS by an area that is predicted to experience an incremental drawdown in groundwater elevation of 10 feet or more as a result of groundwater pumping and dewatering activities associated with the proposed Liberty Pit mining expansion. The DEIS indicates that the maximum extent of the 10-foot drawdown will be limited to Liberty Pit area with no surface waters or water rights impacted within a quarter mile of its extent. For the purpose of the negotiations committee's current efforts, extending the life of the mining operation from the end of 2004 to the end of 2028 in connection with the Liberty Pit mining expansion presumably would require extending dewatering operations of the RW7P well an additional 4 years, which would also extend the date of the Murray Springs recovery would commence by an additional 4 years. If this presumption is confirmed by RMC, then it may be relevant information in the water supply plan modification negotiations. Alan. And so, you know, I guess from my reviewing it in here, what, you know, Alan is saying here, the way I took it is that they're saying this is only being limited to an impact of within the Liberty Pit area, and it's not going to affect our water rights. And so at the end there, his last sentence is, I think that we should get this confirmed from RMC that this is in fact the case.
Well, and it seems like, because they have those different options in there, and the one that they're proposing didn't have any impact toward groundwater, but some of their alternatives did, like alternative D had the potential to impact the groundwater quality up there, which if we're in the same aquifer, I assume would affect our aquifer. And it just, like I was discussing with Councilman Carson beforehand, I just, if that's something Alan has noticed, and how do we know which alternative they're proposing is approved, or?
Well, that's what, I guess at the end of the day, when the BLM approves, they're going to approve A, B, C, or D, one of them. And so that will be what's approved. And so from what I'm reading here, their obviously desire is alternate B,
right,
with three other options to go there.
Okay. I mean, the only other thing I noticed was on page ES5, paragraph 2, they need to say it's the city of Ely, not the town. But besides that, I would defer to the hydrologist definitely, and I thought those suggestions from the clerk were definitely cogent as well. So.
I agree with Jennifer. I think those are great suggestions, and we might take Alan's suggestion and see if we can get them to confirm the way he read it, that if that is in fact truly the case.
What was the recommendation of the utility board this morning?
Yeah, so they liked everything in your letter, and we really didn't have time to wrap our head around what the hydrologist said that morning. So they definitely agreed that we should have everything that you had written in June. And so I'll just make a motion right now for everything that the mayor had in his letter in June. Also, if our hydrologist wants to add anything, that we add in Jennifer Lee's suggestions, and I think that would cover it.
Well,
yeah,
that letter
and
in
then you
June,
have the attorney right at this time instead of the letter from the mayor.
well, I think that letter in June was based on a motion by the council, was it not?
It was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember writing it. I remember signing it. I signed those things. Okay.
So that would be my motion.
You know, we have a little short window on this thing. It's got to be done by the
Tuesday
19th.
or something. It's very quick.
Right.
January 9th, that's
Every Monday is off.
2 days ahead.
Yeah, it's a very short time.
So we have a motion from Councilman Carson. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried and so ordered. Item 3, Councilman Carson, discussion for possible action, review and discussion of written notice to request extension of assignment of lease of real property dated February 11th, 2010 from Robinson Nevada Mining Company to extend the lease an additional 25 years to expire February 28th, 2046, including review of contract terms and the city response to accept, reject, or amend the agreement and extension request.
So this did come in front of us quite some time ago. It kind of fell through the cracks or kind of died for a few reasons. The water department expressed a desire to take over the building up there on the property, and the mine seemed to go along with it. So we just couldn't get the leases together. So the utility board had a pretty good idea today. They thought the time limit, the 2046 expiration date, was too long. They wanted just to run it for a 10-year lease and have the land and the building coincide with each other. So the city of Ely's water department could use the building and the mine could use the land for their monitoring wells and whatever else they needed.
So just an even trade? Is that what they're proposing, or?
That's what we would be proposing to them, yes.
Okay. Any questions or a motion?
It was noted during utility board the rate that stayed the same.
Yes, $1,200 a year, $100 a month.
Okay.
It stays in there. I move to approve that with the recommendation for the 10 years.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I agree with the 10-year idea, I think that's good. I have a question for the attorney on that assignment of lease for real property. On the first page, paragraph toward the bottom, they mention, transferring to Robinson Mining Company, which is cool, that's what we did. If you go to the second page, under the term of lease, it says the lease is between the city of Ely and Murray Springs Bottling Company. Does that need to be cleaned up? Because Murray Springs Bottling Company does not exist. It's down there again in the bottom of that first paragraph.
So I remember noticing that. I think this is an assignment lease, so they took the lease over on behalf of the Murray Bottling Company. And so that's why the language is like that. But the lease is an assignment from, the language is, lease to the Murray, so if you look at the second paragraph at the beginning, previously leased to Murray Springs Bottling Company, and they have whose assets have been purchased by Robinson Nevada Mining Company. So that's that language is in there because it's an assignment of lease.
Okay, thank you.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, further discussion. So the rate that they're leasing it from us is gonna stay the same. Are we giving them anything in return for the building, or is it just?
That was not discussed this morning.
Okay, so that still needs to be negotiated, I suppose. Should that other option? All right, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried and so ordered. Item 4, Councilman Carson, discussion for possible action, approve Stetson Engineers letter of engagement for continued engineering services not to exceed $30,000.
This went in front of the utility board this morning as well. They recommended approval. I know it's a big price tag, but not that we're disputing the mine's numbers or their data for the water hydrology. We're just doing our own homework and seeing how the water tables are reacting down here, and it's just a necessity, I believe.
They recommended to extend that?
Yes.
Any further questions?
I'll make a motion to accept that.
We have a motion from Councilman Allred, do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Spear. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried and so ordered. Item 5, board members, city clerk lead discussion for possible action. Increase lien filing fee to $74 due to White Pine County's recorder fee schedule.
The White Pine County recorder has raised their document filing fee to $37. So when a lien is filed or a lien release, we're charged both times.
The utility board recommended approval, so I will move to approve.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried and so ordered. With that, we'll move on to item 8. Items for discussion, possible action only of the Ely City Council. Consent agenda. We have minutes from December 10th and bills from December 11th, 21st, and 30th. I will look for a motion for both of those items 1 and 2.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor, to approve both bills and the minutes.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion or corrections or comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried and so ordered. We'll move on to B, new business. Mayor Robertson, White Pine Water Power LLC representatives. Discussion only, presentation on White Pine Pump Storage Hydro Project and proposed memorandum of understanding allowing White Pine Water Power LLC to reline approximately 5 miles of railway owned by the Nevada Northern Railway Foundation and the city of Ely.
And they've asked this be tabled until the next meeting.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to table.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do we need a table discussion on it? Is that how it goes?
Well, no, but they're not ready tonight.
Okay.
They will be next.
Anyway, we have a motion, second to table, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Item 2, Mayor Robertson, discussion for possible action, acknowledgement that Regional Planning Commission member John Charchalis be reappointed by Mayor Robertson, and confirmed by the City Council on November 12, 2020, has a term ending December 31st, 2024. As I understand it, this is a clerical correction from our last meeting. They had put him down for renewal for just 1 year, but his term actually renews for 4. So
I move to approve.
we have a motion for approval. Do we have a second?
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 3, Councilman Carson, discussion for possible action, approve installation of perimeter and arena metal fencing at the city corrals by the White Pine Corral Association. I believe this item's on here because the lease requires them to get approval for such, for large type projects.
Correct. And I will move to approve.
And I'll second that one.
I have a motion from
That's a
Councilman.
better explanation of what this is.
Sure. Ken?
On the perimeter fencing, my idea is to keep any animals that may get away from our corrals off of both highways there, Georgetown and Lackawanna.
Okay, thanks, Ken.
And the arena fencing is getting in bad shape, so we need to replace it.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I have a motion from Councilman Carson and a second from Councilman Spear. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimous. Item 4, Councilman Carson, discussion for possible action, approve construction of 24-foot by 24-foot metal building at City Corrals by the White Pine Corral Association.
Move to approve that.
I have a motion for approval by Councilman Spear. Do I have a second?
I have a question.
Can I have a second, and then we can have questions?
I'll second.
Okay, go ahead, Dennis.
Okay, on this, Ken, I realized, you know, I looked at your drawings, and I briefly chatted with the building inspector, Brad Christensen. The building, you know, you were saying a metal building, but it looks like all the quote you have on there is wood. That's the one question. Again, you know, it's your guys' money.
We're talking about a pole building with metal siding.
Okay, all right. Then on your pad, 24 by 24, 4 inches thick, I asked Brad also, I believe there's going to have to be a footing. You just can't set it flat.
Right, and we'll do it according to however they specify.
For a building permit then, right?
Yeah.
So these numbers you're talking at are still?
They're just estimates.
Okay, thank you, Ken.
Any further questions or discussion? I have a motion. I have a motion and a second. I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimous. Item 5, Councilwoman Beecher, discussion for possible action, direction the city staff to fulfill notice requirements in order to abandon 2 unusable strips of right-of-way owned by the city of Ely and Nevada Northern Railway Foundation.
So I spoke with the assessor yesterday, and he said that this has just been, there were 2 pieces of land that apparently some years ago, the city and the railroad had abandoned some unusable land. And these 2 just didn't get done the same way. So he was requesting that this be done, and so that was just what he had relayed to me.
Okay. Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimous. Item 6, council members, city treasurer Trask, discussion for possible action, acceptance of corrective action plan for finding noted in the city's fiscal year 2020 audit.
Okay, this has been a reoccurring finding that keeps coming back to haunt us, that with our attorney's help, we got it worded correctly. We had it close, we just, last year put my name where the bank needs to be the actual trustee. I talked to them, they had some questions. Shane was able to answer the questions, and they are fine with doing this. So I just need your approval that you agree with it, that what I'm doing.
Any questions of the treasurer on this? I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes unanimous. Item 7, council members, city fire chief Stewart. Discussion for possible action, approval to sell fire department personal property no longer required for public use. I believe you have a listing there of the property in question.
I'll move to approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second. Any further discussion or questions on these items? Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimous. Item 8, council members, city attorney Manueli. Discussion for possible action, status update on the city of Ely opioid litigation with possible approval to Eglett Adams to participate in allocation discussions regarding, what are these names? Mallinckrodt Pharmaceuticals, $1.6 billion fund to compensate cities with opioid-related claims, including supportive allocation of the previous mentioned entity, $1.6 billion fund, as part of the previous mentioned entity final bankruptcy plan.
So we had hired, or reached out to Eglett Adams in opioid litigation. That litigation has begun, and we received a status update on where the opioid litigation is. And so Mallinckrodt, the pharmaceutical company, has filed for bankruptcy, or a bankruptcy protection order. However, prior to filing that, they created a $1.6 billion fund to compensate states, cities, and counties and tribes with opioid-related claims as part of the financial bankruptcy plan. No further agreement was reached regarding the allocation of the $1.6 billion funds. Our attorneys were invited to participate in discussions regarding how to allocate those $1.6 billion funds. The only condition of the involvement of our attorneys would be an advanced agreement that our clients will support the decisions regarding what the final plan is of distribution. Our counsel has been advised by their bankruptcy counsel that it is a great opportunity to be heard, and that failing to participate would be detrimental to our interests, as such discussions will continue with or without our involvement. With the bankruptcy counsel, our financial advisors, and Eglett Adams review, they've opined that the $1.6 billion is extremely fair based on Mallinckrodt's overall financial position. It is highly unlikely we could convince the bankruptcy court that Mallinckrodt has additional funds to contribute over and above the $1.6 billion. And so it is our attorneys, Eglett Adams' intention to follow the advice of bankruptcy counsel and agree on our behalf to support the plan, which includes a $1.6 billion fund in exchange for our being allowed to participate in allocation discussions and other issues regarding the fund. The attorneys indicate that they cannot guarantee that these issues will be resolved to our satisfaction, but it's the only pathway to ensure our involvement. Failure to participate would exclude us from the process entirely and leave us with limited and likely cost-prohibitive remedies to challenge the plan allocation. So given their research and review of that, it would be my recommendation that we approve Eglett Adams to participate in the allocation discussions regarding the $1.6 billion fund.
Any questions regarding this?
I'll move to approve.
With approval, do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Further discussion? There's no financial requirement to this. They're not asking for any money, I suppose.
They just want to know if we're supportive of them participating in these discussions of allocation, with the understanding that we won't be able to challenge how those funds are distributed once it's decided.
Okay. I have a motion and I have a second. I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried, so ordered. Item 9, council members, city attorney Manueli, discussion for possible action. Approval of a Lexus Plus subscription agreement through April 30th, 2022 for $179 monthly.
And so this is the research software that I use and that the previous city attorneys have used And so it is up for renewal. We have opted for a Lexus Plus subscription. We had a Lexus Advanced subscription. The Lexus Plus subscription makes it much easier to do research. I don't think it was a large increase in cost. $25 increase. This does, I do use this often for questions that the city has to be able to do the research, and would ask for approval to use that Lexus Plus subscription and renew that.
I have a motion for approval from Councilman Spear. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Councilman Beecher. Further discussion?
Is this in the budget, Treasurer Trask? Not that much money, but make sure.
It's in this current budget at the lower price, but if it's just April, well, it'll be a few months with it up above, but I think we can absorb that and then just get it budgeted into the next year.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimous. With that, we move on to item 9, public comment. Please state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes.
Anybody on Zoom? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I'm disappointed you guys kissed off $4,700 tonight. Yet you nickel and dime me when I come before you to buy a building permit to improve property, increase the values. I'm not just going to pay taxes and pull weeds and watch my property go to hell. You got to stop that. I want equal protection under the law, Mayor. Equal protection under the law. You got a problem with your staff and it needs to be cleaned up. Period. Mr. Mayor, I've been to City Hall numerous times to pick up the permit to re-roof my house at 190 High Street. I've told you to give me a dollar amount and I would pay that. You've ignored me for months. I've told you that I am re-roofing my property and not building new. Your building inspector selectively enforces the law and the color law. You need to stop the discrimination. He is treating others differently and not under the same conditions or regulations. I want a written answer as to why the delay, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, the city and the county need to solicit a newspaper that is fair and balanced. I paid for classified ads back on April 7, 2020 to be run in the local paper. The editor fails to put them in the paper as contractor. That is fraud. On one hand, they solicit one's business, but they don't perform. They advertise. What if America didn't notice? Public notices help expose fraud in government, dishonest businesses, unfair competitive practices, participating democracy. Read your public notices. I want my ads run in the newspaper in a timely manner as their other clients. If the newspaper fails to treat all citizens the same, then the city must stop advertising in the paper and go to another paper that serves the city and White County. Again, I want equal protection under the law, Mr. Mayor. Fraud, you need to prosecute. This is an official complaint. How long do I have to wait? I don't want my money back. I want the ad run, period. Here's proof that I paid back in April, Mayor. Mayor, on the corner of Ogden and Crawford, a 100-meter box was installed 11.5 feet from the property line, and a couple of bollards were installed there. Did Keith Carson pay for the bollards? Why didn't he put in curb and gutter, protect the meter blocks and stop the erosion in that area? Mr. Carson is or was a contractor and should know better. The bollards located more than 4 feet from the property line and potential hazards located on the city right-of-way. Mr. Mayor, the codes need to be followed by everyone. Where's your building inspector? The city needs to stop selective enforcement of the law under color of law. I got permission to put in the sidewalk, curb and gutter by my motel. Did it according to what you guys told me, and then the city turned around and sued me because they said I caused a detriment, caused traffic problems. Really? 11.5 feet off of the property line? I didn't do that. I did it as I was told. Stop the damn discrimination. Mr. Mayor,
Thank you.
I need some answers.
Thank you.
I don't want to thank you. I want information.
Any other public comment? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Second.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting adjourned. Less than an hour. I think we can get through it that quick.
This has been a Georgetown production. George Chatchis reporting.